Hello and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop, your one stop for co-op news, reviews, and playthroughs. I'm Peter, and today I'm going to be talking about Aeon Trespass, the 12 Sins of Herakles. This is a Kickstarter preview, so anything you see here might change before the actual gameplay comes out, so this is just to give you an idea so you can decide for yourself if this is something you'd be interested in. I'm going to go over this preview in a couple different parts. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about how the game plays. Then I'm going to give you my thoughts based on a very small amount of the game I've been able to play. Basically, I fought against one boss twice at level 0 and at level 1. And finally, I'm going to talk about how this compares to Aeon Trespass Odyssey, which is the original version. This is a prequel version where you're actually playing as the children of Herakles. You're traveling around in a little family group called the Ecos. But the first thing I wanted to show, again, this is all rendered, this is all Tabletop Simulator sent to us from the publishers of the game, but I thought that was a very cool miniature. I am certainly aware of why they want to show this off, so I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it, but this is a Lion Eater, which is one of the first bad guys you're going to be fighting against. And I think this Tabletop Simulator demo is going to come out for the general public, and this is what you're going to be able to play against. Again, I played against them at level 0 and at level 1. But let's talk about the game. So in this game, again, you are one of the children of Herakles who transform into these titans to take on these giant bad guys that are roaming the world. And this is a prequel to Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I believe it's going to be standalone as well. But let's talk about how you play and what you do on your turn. So this is a boss battler where you're going to take exactly 4 different heroes and take them up against a giant boss. And you're going to do that several times. And in between, you're going to get story, you're going to level up, you're going to get new armor, you might even get new skills or level up the skills that you have. But one of the coolest things and one of the most unique things about this is this little Triskelion here, which is basically controlling, like, danger is the amount of damage you take, fate is your ability to get rerolls and things, and rage is you becoming more and more powerful as the adventure goes on. And as these things level up, or as you take damage, as you use fate, whatever, you're using these for benefits and you're going to get stronger and stronger, but they're also going to make the enemy stronger as well. And that's one of the neat parts about it. So as your rage ticks up, as an example, every time you make an attack, your rage goes up and it moves you further and further down this track. Will let you add openings or break tokens to the enemy to make it easier for the next person who attacks them to do damage to them, or even gives you rerolls on your armor roll. But everything is based around rolls here. So on your turn, you're going to do an enemy turn first, and all you do for that is you take one of their AR cards, you flip it up, and it tells you several pieces of information. Now, this isn't going to be a full rules breakdown. On One Stop Co-op Shop, we do plenty of videos on the full breakdown of how the game plays and even some example gameplays. So we're not doing that here, but I just want to show you some examples of what you do. It tells you how to target, it tells you who it moves and attacks. When it attacks, it shows you how many dice you need to roll and what your goal is. And so you're rolling 4 dice, and your goal here is to get a 6+. So let's just say it moved closer to this character here. Again, I'm not going to go into all the exact how it moves and everything, but for this example here, again, you're going to roll 4 dice, and you want 6+. And then if you look at the bottom here where it says move and attack, it says each hit deals 1A, which is your danger. So we're going to roll 4 dice. One of them is always the white dice, which is the critical dice. So this basically determines, and actually we got a critical there. So if you roll a 10 on it, it's going to give you a critical, meaning that if something says if you critically dodge or whatever else, that's the only thing that really affects it. We don't have any equipment at the beginning of the game that works that way, but we basically got 2 6+ here and 2 that didn't. So for the 2 that didn't, we could increase our danger. The other option, though, is we could spend fate, 1 fate, to reroll each dice. And this works for both them hitting you and you hitting them. So in this situation, didn't roll any better. So now we have 2 fate, and our danger goes up too. What's bad about getting fate or getting rerolls? If you'll notice here, it says fate, and then there's some other information as well. This is if you're playing against higher level bosses, this 6+ becomes a 9+. So there are changes to the cards as well as you level up. So as I said, you get stronger as the game goes along, but so does the enemy. Because when you attack the enemy, it works very similar. So for example, if this character was going to attack, they use one of their weapons, in this case their fists. They're going to roll 2 dice, and the enemy tells you what you need to do to hit it. So if we're fighting against this level 0, we need a 6+. So the first thing we do in combat is we do take up our rage meter, and then we roll our dice. So we go ahead and roll those 2 dice. Again, looking for 6+. We got a 10 and an 8. Both of those hit. So you'll notice for this weapon here, for each hit, we roll a red dice. So we get 2 red dice. And then if you look at your Titan itself, here it adds 1 more red dice. So if we had any hits there, we're going to add a red dice. One of the other neat things about this version of the game is your character that transforms into these Titans is going to have innate abilities and starting ability cards as well that will level up. You'll notice you level up too. Again, as you get to 4+ danger, which is usually bad for you, this card comes into play and you can do this special ability here. So we get 3 red dice to do damage. So what we do is we flip over one of the enemy body parts and we look at this number here. This is the number we have to meet or exceed, and if we fail, bad stuff can happen to us, or if we had criticaled on that hit, then good things will happen to us. So let's go ahead and roll these 3. We need 2 because of that body part. All right, you'll see we get 2 hits here, 2 hits there. You might sometimes get this as well. So you get the slash is an actual break of the armor, but this right here requires what's called a break token, and you'll see that over here in the Kratos pool to turn into. So for each of those break tokens, you can change one of those little triangle symbols into an actual break. But we only needed 2 here, and we ended up getting 4. What that means is we put this in the wound stack over here. When you do that, the enemy levels up. So again, we're leveling up, so are they. You also take a level 1 enemy AI card out and shuffle a level 2 enemy AI card into the deck. So again, it's becoming more and more difficult. Now you do always see what level you're fighting against on the back, so that can inform your decisions, because at the end of combat, after we did our little damage there, the next thing we do is, because we are at level 1, we decide, do we want to add one of those break tokens I already talked about, or do we want to add one of these opening tokens to the Kratos pool over here? Now those are one-time use. So basically, next time somebody attacks, they're going to use those tokens, and whether they use them or not, they go away. Doesn't matter. So what opening token does is makes it easier to hit the enemy. So normally you'd need a 6+ to hit them. If you have an opening token, all dice just need 5+ to hit. And if we have more than one as we go along and get more and more powerful, we can add more tokens. Then we might only need a 4 to hit or whatever. Or we can add more of these break tokens just in case we roll more of those triangle symbols when we're trying to do damage. And again, your fate will help you reroll. So that's the basics of combat. It hasn't really changed much since Aeon Trespass Odyssey. What has changed is what happens after combat. So after combat, after you do those 6 damage, depending on the level you're going to draw a certain number of them. So at the lowest level, you are going to draw 4 of these cards. You're just looking at the symbols in the upper left corner, and that's going to tell you what resources you get, which will be tracked on this sheet over here, which kind of tracks all your cargo and everything else that you're getting throughout the course of the game. And you're going to get a different number of resources based on the level of the enemy you fought. So for example, a level 1 enemy will always give you 6 resource cards. But after you're done getting your resource cards, to both help mitigate and kind of give you an opportunity to like get more and more stuff, you can do what's called a carcass delve. And what you do for the carcass delve is you have to discard, and it might be different for each boss, but they said for this one you have to discard one of those sets of resources you got, and then you start rolling. So you roll 3 red dice over here, and we're trying to get a certain number of hits. So we're going to get to the first gate. We go ahead and roll those dice. We got 2 successes, so we did get past the first one, so we can flip out one of our resource cards for another resource card. Let's say we weren't satisfied with that. We wanted to keep going. We do it again. Now we need 3 to keep going. We got 4. We can keep going. Now we can flip out a second card for a different resource card to help us mitigate. But if we wanted to keep going down to level 3, we could keep doing that. And you just keep rolling for each level you want to go to. We did not succeed there. So we actually not only lose every benefit we would have gained because we pushed our luck there, we also, a random Titan gains 3 damage for the next battle. So normally your Titans clear by the end of the battle. Even if Titans had been defeated, you get new ones, and they use now what are called these seeds to resurrect you. So you have 8 seeds, now you'd be down to 7. So that gives you an opportunity to, you're not out of the game once you lose 1 or 2 Titans. Those seeds are like your respawn seeds. But so if we had kept going, though, we might have gotten a different resource. And over here, we get like one of the more valuable resources. But one of the other cool things you do at the end, so let's say we didn't do that delve, or let's say we had succeeded and we gotten these resource cards. So if you're fighting a level 0 enemy over here, so this is right on the back of the enemy sheet. So when you're done fighting an enemy is when you upgrade your weapons, as soon as you're done. So let's say we wanted to make one of these weapons. You'll see these numbers in the corner, and I'll explain those in a minute. But let's see, we got one of these and one of these over here. So we could make this flint sling over here. You see it requires those 2 resources. So we can grab one of the flint slings we have and give it to one of our characters. It's a range 2 to 3. It's cumbersome, and it still just attacks with the 2 dice. And it's +0 to its attack. So it's similar to Fist, it just has a different range. And it has this cumbersome keyword, which there's a list of all the keywords. So why do they have numbers? So sometimes they have numbers because it's like a pre-item that can be upgraded to something else later. So let's say we had one of these claws and one of these items over here. And again, anything you don't use, you end up marking on that sheet, and you can use later when you fight as well. So let's say we did have these 2 things here. We can make this club. That's a number 1 item. So we got this club over here. And then later on, or even right now, if we had this symbol and a number 1 item, we could trash the club and turn it into a petrified shield. So you could change the club into a shield with just that one other resource. And then you can make a club again later or whatever else. So these precursors, so this 2 right here can be turned into a flint blade. This level 3 item over here can be made into a lion's belt. But again, you have to fight at least the level 1 of this enemy before you can make any items over on this side over here. So that's how crafting works. There are other ways to get crafting as well, though. You're also going to get allies throughout the course of the game, and you'll get those during your adventures, which also might give you options as far as crafting goes. And they may even help you on the journey step. During the carcass delve roll, you may turn one of those into a break symbol. So they will help you. And your allies also, when you flip them over, will get a certain number of tokens that you can use throughout the course of battle to like help you stand up if you're knocked down. Or in this case, it also, when you draw a trauma or obol card, which are basically your death cards, you resolve a second chance, which basically means you discard that one and you draw a new one. Now, apparently, if you use the allies in combat, there's some chance that they could die, or if you exhaust them too much, then you won't be able to use them during the journey phase. So to do things like the carcass delve and things like that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the journey phase, which we're going to move over here for. And this little book over here will help me do that. So I'm going to click the thing on the bottom here, and I'm going to flip these over because these will be flipped over. So the journey map, this is your ecos over here, which is your family that is traveling around. And it says if you go up, you're going to tile 1. If you go right, you're going to tile 6, down tile 12, left tile 4. But there's also this number over here and this type of terrain. So if you look closely, this number is 17. That means you're going to have to overcome 17 points of challenge to move down here. And it's going to use this type of terrain when you do it. And you'll see why it's important in a minute. So when you're traveling, before you travel at all, you are going to flip to see what you encounter on your way down to tile 12 over here. So you draw from this exploration deck, and the first card we drew is a 6, then a 4. Now it would be +3 if we were traveling over that type of terrain, but remember we are not. We're traveling over this type of terrain, and they all have names, but I don't know them off the top of my head. So that's 10, 15 points. Remember we have to get to at least 17, so that's 18. So that means we did meet our challenge value to move to that next tile. So then what we do is look over here, and this is the perils that we're going to face going. So that is not our terrain. Neither of these are terrains. If we were denounced, bad things would happen. So if the people didn't like us that we were traveling through, the other bad stuff would happen. So this is our type of terrain, though. So we have to lose what's these little fists like together over here. So that top one is the type of terrain. The bottom one is not, though. So In order to do that, we'd go over to our player sheet over here and mark our bond is what's that called. So that's like our family bond, how strongly bonded we are together. So this is one of the losing conditions for the game. Obviously, losing all your seeds means you have no more characters left, losing your bond. And so it says for each stranger, you lose a bond, then lose 3 strangers. So strangers will leave your company. If no bond was lost with this card, you gain a stranger. So we didn't have any strangers in our ecos, but now we add a stranger, so we have that going on. So then at the end of the travel phase, any cards that say discard at the bottom, we definitely discard and don't shuffle back in. And then the highest value card here, which is a 6, we are also going to get rid of for the travel phase. Then we put these other 2 back in and we shuffle. And then we get to move to the new location tile. Now on this location tile, there is a little story event here. This game is very heavily story based. All right, so let's say we want to keep going down to this next tile. We look at the symbol here and we look at the challenge value. This time, oh my gosh, 25. Well, let's go ahead and explore and see what cards come up. So 9, 10, 13, 19, 22, not the right type of terrain, and 28. So that beats that 25 value. So now let's look at our terrain type. It's got these 2 little hills at the bottom here. So we're looking for that terrain type and then we do it. Well, first thing, if we're traveling over hills, we get ambushed by a primordial. So that is going to start a fight in 1 second. So we're going to have to fight one of these primordials, one of the bad guys. So there's an ambush for us. And then again, we gain a danger. So that's basically losing a health. So we can decide who we put that on. Oh my gosh, we lose a second danger here. Then we lose 2 more. So that's total of 4. Another danger, that's 5, 6, 7 danger that we gain for this travel. So we're going to start with combined 7 danger on our characters. Again, it's basically like taking 7 hits. We decide how we want to distribute those. And we're going to get ambushed by a primordial. But we do get to travel along to the next tile, which has another maybe story symbol or something else there that will help you throughout the course of the game. But that's the basics of how you travel and how you fight and how you level up your characters. So what are my thoughts after playing this? My experience has been very positive with the game. I do like boss battlers. It is very quick to set up and play. Yes, the dice are very swingy throughout the game. You do have your fate that you can help re-roll. You can't do much with the damage dice though. There's not much mitigation there, but it seems to work out. I mean, you have 4 characters that you're fighting with. And one of the cool things, and we didn't really go over this, but each has an ability, an innate ability on their card. The Titans you can also change throughout the game, so they'll give you different things. So this is like when you take damage here, it tells you which pile you draw from. That may change. This Kratos reward track over here, as you get more and more rage built up, that might change. But your characters in the original game, and again, don't want to compare too much to the original game. You like gain these as you went along, and they didn't necessarily correspond to each other. But in this version of the game, you actually get those abilities. The character that you choose matters more, where in the first one, it was more of a just an aesthetic choice. Along with they had like a little bit of abilities here at the bottom, but here they all kind of work together along with this innate ability as well. So it's kind of neat how this all works together. It's very straightforward, honestly, and especially if you don't use these. For like the tutorial battle, they didn't even give us these special abilities here. So it's pretty straightforward. You move, you fight. When you fight, you always add rage. After the fight, you do what it says here, but it's very simple to hit number, and then you roll for damage, and that's it. But very cinematic, because as you're hitting these parts, like instincts always trigger. So this one's going to hide after they trigger, but if you spend 2 fate here, you get to chase them down. So they're trying to hide, but you're chasing after them. If you get a critical, you get to heal 1, and then good stuff happens. And criticals don't happen that often, because remember, only criticals on your white dice matter, and you usually only roll 1 white dice. Although after playing the other Aeon Trespass, sometimes you know all your dice will count, or whatever else, or they'll have a second white dice that you add to it to give you more chance to critical. Or some of your items might give you criticals for when you critically dodge or when you critically attack or whatever else. So while the combat's pretty straightforward, it's satisfying at the same time. Now, I do recommend this game at lower player counts. Really, 2 is my ideal player count for at least for the original game. I had no problems controlling 4 characters here, and same with the original game. I didn't have trouble controlling multiple characters. I find that at higher player counts, 3 would probably work as well. You're gonna lose Titans throughout the course of the battle, and I just don't want somebody to lose a Titan turn 1 and then be sitting there for another 45 minutes while we're playing out the rest of the battle. The battles do tend to be pretty quick, but you still don't want to have somebody sitting around. So that's why I find I like lower player counts better for this one. But it is fun. My son and I love playing the original Aeon Trespass Odyssey together, and this one doesn't change very much from combat. If anything, it improves it from the original version, from what I've seen so far. I think this is a cleaner system. This Carcass Delve, I don't know. This first one isn't very exciting to me. I guess you're really trying to get to this bottom one, but getting 6+ on 3 dice is pretty hard to do. You'd have to get pretty lucky, and again, you lose all the benefits above, and you take a penalty, and there's a cost for doing it. You have to lose one of your cards. I think later on maybe it'll be worthwhile, especially as you get allies that help you be more successful at this. But I don't know, the first 2 rewards, just trading out one for the other, I'm not super excited about. But I am excited about this as a concept. I love the idea that, you can go further and further in, and it's push your luck. I mean, if this wasn't changing a card out, but maybe just drawing a new card, because you already have to pay a card just to do it, right? So maybe I get 1 card. Here I get 2 cards, and then I get a really strong resource. Then I get the strongest resource in the game. Now I'm tempted to push my luck, and I'm really sad when I lose these things. So I like it in concept. I'd love to see it in gameplay more, but I do like how that's an option there in case you just don't draw any of the resources you want to be able to build stuff. And I love that you're building and crafting equipment right after you're done. I always find that so satisfying when I'm done fighting something. I get to build equipment right away, which makes me excited for the next fight, right? Getting on to the next fight. The travel phase, it's interesting. It's a little more complex than it used to be. You used to just, when you went to a new tile, you draw a certain number of cards. It wasn't very many. And it seems like there's a lot of bad stuff on these cards. Now, maybe this is just, this is the example they chose to show us right out of the book. So I do worry a little bit. And some of these symbols are a little bit close to each other, like that one and that one. Yes, they're clearly different. One has 3 bumps on it. The other one has 2 bumps on it. But they both have that black dot above it. Like, I don't know why that was the choice for symbols. This is just a prototype, so clearly they can fix that. But yeah, I think that iconography, they can make it a little more differentiated from each other. Like, why do they both have black dots? Just remove it from one or move it to the right side instead of the left side. There's options there. So that all can be fixed beforehand. That doesn't really bother me too much. What does bother me, though, is like taking 7 damage and then having to get ambushed. That seems pretty terrible. Now, I do like that the ambush is the highest number one, so you're going to take it out after this no matter what. I kind of feel like it should be take it out anyway. But it also depends. Like, there's 30 of these cards here. So, the odds of seeing that aren't that great. I hope you get something out of ambushes. Well, I guess you will, because after you fight something, you'll be able to craft more gear. You'll be getting more resources and things. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, at least you get something out of it. But I hope they account for that as a fight when they're accounting for the number of fights and the amount of hours you're going to have to put into the game. Because otherwise, just adding in random fights, I'm not sure how much I love that if it's not helping you progress the game and progress the story. So those are my thoughts on the game. Gameplay itself, again, super fun. I do enjoy the combat phase more than I enjoy the map traveling phase. That is just the kind of player I am, though. I know some people love the story. It's definitely a very heavily story-based game. There's very good writing in it, at least in Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I've seen a little bit of it here, but again, I've had a very limited experience with this version of the campaign so far. So overall, I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a good boss battler. I know this game has been compared a lot to Kingdom Death Monster, and with good reason, right? Because you're fighting monsters, you're flipping over their body part that you're killing, then you have to hit that body part. If you don't, bad stuff happens to you. There's a lot of similarities in the way the enemy AI works. But there's some differences, and the big differences between this and KDM to me are the fact that you're leveling up the monster. Every time you defeat a body part, you're adding a body part of the next higher level. If I defeat a level 2 body part, I'm adding a level 3. So you're really adding and making the boss just harder and harder. The more you fight it, the longer you fight it, because you have to, again, body part 3s have much higher numbers to wound than the body part 1s do. And the enemy AI levels up every time too. Again, every time you go from a level 1 to level 2 on the body parts, you also go from a level 1 to a level 2 for one of the AI cards. So I really like how they level up, as well as, again, one of the big differences and one of the big things that make this game unique are this Triskelion here, which, as you attack, you're getting more and more powerful. You not only get the benefit of your current level, but you get everything above it. So here I get to place 2 tokens, and then I get to push the enemy, or I get to re-roll one of those red dice if I really need it. As I go even further down, I'm going to get to push, and I get a re-roll. And then as I get further down, I even get to add another red dice every time I'm attacking. So I'm more likely to wound those higher level parts. Then I get to add more tokens and again, more re-rolls and more pushing. Just some neat stuff that can really help with the comboing that you do. So I really like how we level up as the game goes on and how they level up. And again, the more damaged you are, A at the bottom, danger. It's really bad to get high danger. But the higher my danger, I unlock special abilities over here and over here. I get to do more cool stuff the higher damaged I am. Also, it looks like we're going to start with these leathers here, which give you a second chance. If you draw a really bad trauma card that basically kills you, you can flip this over. It's once per battle, but you can now draw a different trauma card instead. So I like the fact that they did some things to mitigate some of the bad luck that happens. That's going to be it for my review part of it, or preview part of it. Again, not a review. I've only played one boss twice and done a little bit of the in-between stuff. So not a full review, although I have played Aeon Trespass Odyssey quite a bit because it's one of my son's favorite games. We love playing it together. He's been begging me to play it for a few weeks now. We kind of took a hiatus from it. So now that I've refreshed myself on the rules, everything else, I'm super looking forward to playing with him again soon. Alright, so comparing this to Aeon Trespass Odyssey, from what I've seen so far, this Dungeon Delve is new. I like the fact that you buy stuff as soon as you're done fighting. That to me is a big thing. It used to be you got these technology cards and you're deciding which technology to level up. That was kind of interesting, but I think I like this better because it's just right there, right in front of you. You might have a couple of allies that give you other options. It used to be also those technologies would give you like in-combat abilities versus out-of-combat abilities. I like the fact that maybe if you use this all the way up, then you lose the ability to get like some of these bonuses out of combat. So I like the idea of adding more allies to your party. The one thing I do like about how these travel cards work is it seems like they're going to add more strangers and things like that. That really, at least from what I've played, and I've only played the first chapter of the game, not even all the way through. But what I like is the strangers didn't seem to play a big part there. There were a lot of the story and things, but I like adding them in. And I also like that this is going to be a land adventure as well. So that's kind of neat, some exploring of the land masses. So these cards you used to like get in Aeon Trespass Odyssey, you used to get as the game went on. They didn't always work well together, and you didn't really feel like your character was a character always because they didn't go well together sometimes. I like that you start off with the innate ability and ability cards right away. You still level them up the way you used to, but I like the fact that you're starting with them at the beginning of the game now, and you're leveling them up as the game goes on. Yes, they even blanked them out for us, so I have no idea what they do as you level them up, and I don't know how you track it either. I'm assuming there's going to be a sheet, or the app worked really well for the first game, so I assume it's going to be very similar as far as that goes. So I do like the change from technology to allies, at least conceptually. I do like the fact that you just shuffle all these cards together at the end to determine what resources you get, and I don't think the resources on the 3 are any better than the 2 or the 1. Maybe you get a really lucky draw, maybe you get a really unlucky draw, but if you didn't kill a level 3 before, you weren't going to get some of the best stuff. Now you always have that opportunity, which I really like. The way you change weapons into other weapons, it's pretty neat. I'm curious to see how it carries forward. I do like that basically you're upgrading your items, which feels better than just, having this menu list of items. It's like, oh my gosh, so many items. What can I build? I like how it's limited here a little bit. and you know kind of these are the weaker ones because these are coming from level 0, and these are going to be better ones as you're getting through there. So you don't have to, I don't know. For me, I like the way it works. It worked fine in the original one, but I really do like the way it works here. But again, this is a very limited tutorial from what I've played. As far as the moving goes, I hope it replaces, like, I know it replaced like the 2-card draw, like you drew until you get 2 stacks of 2 or something, but sometimes you draw more. Like, that was not necessarily confusing to me, but a little confusing. This, I'm not sure how I feel about yet. I like it in concept, like, oh, it's really hard to travel over this way or whatever else. I like the concept of it. I'm not sure how I'm going to love it in execution yet. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. I didn't love the fact that I could get ambushed and start with 7 damage in the next battle. I understand that's probably a really bad draw, but at the same time, like, I want to see some mitigation for it maybe, and maybe there are. Maybe there are tour guide allies that you can discard some of the cards as you're drawing them or whatever else. I just hope there's a bigger variety, and we could look through some of these. I mean, a lot of them are gaining damage, but I remember before they were like, so it seems like a lot of bad stuff. Whereas I remember before, like, I thought you were gaining things from these as well. It's like, oh, gain this resource and gain that resource. And maybe they wanted this to be more of a negative thing than necessarily a positive thing. I don't know. It's interesting. I worry a little bit also because maybe you just draw a bunch of these, right? And maybe it's, if you draw at least one of them, the thing triggers. I hope it's not for each one because, I mean, again, you're drawing a lot more cards than you used to draw. So hopefully they're not moving 4 or 5 to catch you. And now you're doing this battle and you got somebody chasing you and you got a battle for that. So that's the only thing that worries me a little bit so far. But they haven't done us wrong with the game design so far, so I have full confidence in them to do the right thing here as well and get the balance here right, as well as making sure it plays well. I like this in concept. I hope they find something else to do with it too, because I did like gathering resources. I went around and exploring and I was gathering stuff and I was getting more and more stuff, and then I could level up and I could upgrade my ship and I can do all these other things. I think that's all going to be part of it still. So for me, this is a huge upgrade. The starting characters, definitely a huge upgrade. This could be an upgrade, but I am curious to see how it works in practice. But again, it's just a Kickstarter preview. I have full confidence in the publishers to get it right. But the gameplay is still super fun. Combat hasn't changed much from the original game. Definitely big thumbs up for me. I am super excited to explore this game further, although I still have so much Aeon Trespass Odyssey stuff to explore that'll keep me busy for sure until this one comes out. But it has re-energized me to go back and play more Aeon Trespass Odyssey. That is the one thing. And this is definitely, as anybody who's played the original one knows, this is definitely more of a lifestyle game. This is something you can get lost in for hundreds of hours. Whereas a lot of games you buy nowadays, even at high price points, you're not going to get that much value out of it. So if that's something you're looking for, cool new monsters, again, the sculpts, like this is just a render, of course, but the sculpts look really cool even in these renders. I just love the poses they're in. I love the concepts here. So super excited to explore this one further. But in the meantime, I have plenty of Aeon Trespass Odyssey to play, and I can't wait to get back to that one as well. Definitely one of the better games that's come out over the last couple years. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will have a live play of this up on the streaming channel. I am going to play through at least the level 0 fight and then the exploration phase again on our One Stop Co-op Shop streaming channel, so definitely check over there for a live stream coming up the day this campaign launches on Tuesday. And I may even do the second fight, the higher level fight, later on as the campaign goes on as well. And I think they said they're going to unlock this tabletop simulator mod for everybody as the campaign goes on as well. So that way you can look at it yourself and see if it's something that you're interested in. I hope that helped, and we will see you soon. Bye!